They mocked her uniform. They laughed at her silence. But when she touched her head and removed what they thought made her less, the whole hall went quiet, because beneath that wig was the truth they tried to bury. Imagine this. The woman they called invisible, the maid they humiliated, standing in the middle of their perfect wedding, revealing a scar that silenced an entire room. What you're about to hear on StorySphere will shock you, inspire you, and remind you why revenge sometimes wears a maid's uniform. Before I reveal how she destroyed them without raising her voice, hit that subscribe button on StorySphere, tap the bell, and stay with me till the end, because this comeback will make your jaw drop. The morning sun pushes through thin curtains in a small room somewhere in Surrelir, casting lazy stripes across a worn wooden table. The sounds of Lagos waking up drift in through the window. Generators humming to life. Street vendors calling out their wares. The distant honk of Danfo buses fighting for space on cramped roads. Someone is frying akra nearby. The smell of pepper and onions fills the air. A hand reaches for a cream envelope resting on the table. The hand trembles slightly as fingers slide beneath the seal, careful not to tear the expensive paper. Inside, gold lettering on ivory cardstock catches the light. You're invited to the wedding of Chika O'Keefe and Kelechi Nosu. The hand holding the card tightens, knuckles straining against dark skin. The trembling stops. Something else takes over. Something colder. He's really marrying her. The man who ruined me. The card falls to the table with a soft sound. A woman stands by the window now, silhouetted against the morning light. Her maid uniform is simple, pressed, anonymous. The kind of uniform that makes you invisible in rooms full of people. But her eyes are not the eyes of someone who has forgotten. They are not the eyes of someone who has given up. If you were in her shoes, would you go to that wedding? Or stay away forever? 2 years earlier, the Lagos skyline gleamed under afternoon sun. Glass buildings reflected ambition back at themselves, reaching toward clouds that promised rain but never delivered. Inside a sleek office on the 7th floor of a building in Victoria Island, a woman moved with a kind of purpose that comes from knowing exactly who you are and where you're going. She was radiant then, hair flowing in loose curls past her shoulders, makeup flawless but natural, dressed in a tailored navy blazer that whispered success without shouting it. This was ADAN, but not the ADAN standing by the window in a maid's uniform. This was ADAN before the fall. Her phone wouldn't stop ringing. Staff members rushed past her glass-walled office with clipboards and product samples, their faces focused and energized. A banner hung on the wall behind her desk in elegant script. Lux by Adani. Because you deserve luxury. She was laughing on a call, her voice bright and confident in that way that makes people want to listen. Yes, we'll have a new line ready by October. Trust me, this formula is revolutionary. Nobody else has this. Not even close. She hung up, still smiling, and turned to look out at the city below. For a moment, she just breathed, taking in this life she had built from nothing. The door opened behind her. She didn't need to turn to know who it was. She could feel him, the way you feel someone you love entering a room. My queen still conquering the world, I see. He was tall, handsome in that effortless way that some men are. Kelechi. He wore confidence like a second skin. And when he smiled, it was easy to believe everything he said. He wrapped his arms around her from behind, and she leaned into him, still looking out at the city. Our world. Everything I build for us. He kissed her neck, soft and slow. Then let's make it official. Marry me before the year ends. She turned in his arms, eyes shining with something that looked like happiness, but was really just hope dressed up in better clothes. You already asked me 6 months ago, Kelechi. I said yes, remember? I know. I just like hearing you say it again. They kissed. The kind of kiss that feels like a promise. The camera of memory holds on them. Perfect, untouchable. The kind of couple that makes other people jealous. But if you looked closely at his eyes when she wasn't watching, you would see something that didn't match his smile. Something calculating. Something cold. Hook number 2. She trusted him with her life's work, her secret formula worth millions. But what he did next, pure evil. Keep watching on StorySphere, because this betrayal will make your blood boil. The months that followed were a blur of success. Award ceremonies where ADAN stood on stage, holding trophies while flashbulbs popped like champagne corks. Magazine covers with her face glowing under professional lighting. Headlines that read, Lego's beauty mogul to watch. The woman behind Lux. Her warehouse was always busy. Staff packing products, labels being printed, trucks being loaded with orders heading to boutiques across Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt. But the late nights were different. Just her and Kelechi in her office after everyone else had gone home, reviewing contracts and formulas. He was always there, always close, always watching with those eyes that looked like love but felt like something else. One night, she sat across from him with papers spread between them. Her formula, pages of research, ingredient lists, chemical breakdowns, years of work. Her entire future mapped out in scientific notation and carefully guarded secrets. This stays between us, right? I'm not ready to file the patent yet. I want to perfect it first. Make sure it's absolutely flawless. He reached across the desk and touched her hand, his fingers warm and reassuring. Baby, who else would I tell? Your success is my success. We're partners. We're about to be husband and wife. She smiled, wanting to believe him, needing to believe him. You're right. I'm just paranoid. I worked so hard for this, and I can't let anything go wrong. You've worked too hard to doubt yourself now. Relax. We're in this together. Always. 3 weeks later, ADAN burst into a corporate boardroom in Eco unannounced. Security tried to stop her, but she pushed through, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. At the head of the long mahogany table sat Kelechi. But he wasn't alone. Beside him sat a woman in a sharp red suit. Her makeup perfect, her smile sharper. The logo on the presentation screen behind them glowed like a mockery. Radiance by Chika Okeke. And there on the screen, in bullet points and chemical formulas, her work, her research, her formula. Every detail she had shared with Kelechi in those late-night sessions, being pitched as someone else's product. Aiden's voice shook, but she forced the words out. Kelechi, what is this? He didn't flinch, didn't stand, didn't even have the decency to look surprised. He just looked at her like she was an inconvenience, like she was a stain on his perfectly pressed shirt. ADAN, you need to leave. This is a private meeting. Private? That's my formula. My research. I spent 3 years developing that. The woman in red, Chika, stood slowly, cool and unbothered, like someone used to winning fights she didn't even have to show up for. I don't know what you're talking about, but you're making a scene, and honestly, it's embarrassing. ADAN lunged forward. She didn't plan it. Her body just moved. Security grabbed her arms, pulling her back. She was screaming now, and some part of her registered how she must look wild, desperate, crazy. Kelechi, tell them. Tell them you stole this from me. Tell them the truth. He finally stood, and when he looked at her, his face was cold in a way she had never seen before, like he had taken off a mask. And this was who he really was. Had always been. You're embarrassing yourself. And frankly, ADAN, even if that formula was yours, which we both know you can't prove, you're nothing without me. I built you. I made you relevant. You think anyone would have taken you seriously if I hadn't been there? A girl from Anambra with no connections. Please. The words hit her harder than any physical blow could have. Her breath caught in her chest like he had slapped her, like he had reached inside her chest and squeezed her heart until it stopped. What? You heard me. Now get out before I call the police and have you arrested for trespassing. She stopped struggling, just stared at him, at the man she was going to marry, at the man she had trusted with everything. The security guards dragged her backward toward the door, her feet sliding on the polished floor. The last thing she saw before they pushed her into the hallway was Chika smiling. A small, satisfied smile. Weeks passed like a nightmare that wouldn't end. Aiden's company collapsed. Investors pulled out. Clients canceled orders. Her staff left one by one, apologizing, but needing to pay their own bills. The warehouse went silent. The office that used to buzz with energy became a tomb. One evening, she walked through the empty space alone. The lights flickered and died one by one, like even the electricity had given up on her. She stopped in front of a mirror hanging in what used to be her private office. Her reflection stared back, makeup smudged from crying, eyes hollow from not sleeping, hair disheveled. She reached up slowly and removed her wig. Beneath it was a scar, jagged and angry, running along her scalp near her temple. The memory flashed unbidden. Their last argument before everything fell apart. His hands shoving her during a fight about money, about her unwillingness to share certain business details. Her head hitting the corner of a glass table. Blood. Pain. His voice afterward, cold and detached. This is your fault. All of it. She touched the scar now, tracing its length with her fingertips. Her voice was barely a whisper, but it carried the weight of a vow. One day, you'll see me again. The present day arrived slowly, the way healing always does, reluctant and incomplete. ADAN moved through the halls of a grand estate in Lekki, carrying fresh linen stacked high in her arms. Marble floors reflected chandeliers. High ceilings made voices echo. Staff bustled everywhere, preparing for something big. She was invisible here, just another worker in a uniform. Her head was wrapped now, wig hidden beneath a colorful scarf, the scar safely concealed. She moved quietly, efficiently, the way you learn to move when you don't want to be noticed. In the main sitting room, chaos reigned. A bride-to-be, Chica, though ADAN had known this from the moment she accepted this job, snapped her fingers at decorators who were trying to hang gold fabric from the ceiling. No, no, no. The gold needs to be softer. Are you people blind? This looks cheap. Do I look like someone who does cheap things? An older woman sat on a cream-colored sofa, fanning herself with a decorated fan, even though the air conditioning was on full blast. Mrs. Okeke, Chica's mother. She had the kind of face that suggested she had never been told no in her entire life. Chica, darling, relax. Everything will be perfect. You're stressing yourself for nothing. It has to be more than perfect, Mommy. This is the wedding of the year. Everyone who's anyone will be there. I want people talking about this wedding for years. ADAN entered with a tea service on a silver tray. She set it down on a glass coffee table quietly, carefully, like she was setting down explosives. Chica glanced at her the way you might glance at a chair or a lamp, briefly, without interest. Be careful, Maid. Don't trip over my happiness. Mrs. Okeke chuckled, a sound like wind chimes made of ice. Girls like you are born to serve. Shah, it's your portion in life. God has a place for everyone. Aiden's jaw tightened so hard her teeth ached, but her face remained neutral. Smooth. Empty. Yes, Ma. She left the room, walking down the long corridor with its expensive paintings and imported tile. The camera of her own awareness stayed on her face, calm, controlled. But her eyes, if anyone had bothered to really look, were burning. That evening was the rehearsal dinner, a smaller gathering than the wedding would be, but still lavish by any standard. The dining room was set for 40 people. Crystal glasses caught candlelight. The smell of jollof rice and suya and grilled fish filled the air. A live band played soft high life in the corner. ADAN served champagne, moving between guests like a shadow, like a ghost of someone who used to be somebody. And then she saw him. Kalechi. He stood near the window with Chica on his arm, laughing at something someone said. He looked good, better than good. Tailored black suit, fresh fade, the kind of confident smile that makes people want to be near you. He looked like a man who had won at life. He didn't see her, didn't even glance her way. She approached with the champagne bottle, her movements practiced and smooth. She poured wine into his glass. Her hand was steady, years of practice at being steady when everything inside you is screaming. He took the glass without looking at her face, just took it and kept talking, kept laughing. She moved on to the next guest, but her heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. If you were in her position, would you have told him who you were right then and there, or let him drown in his own ignorance? Late that night, ADAN sat on her bed in the small room the Okeke family had given her, barely more than a closet with a window. Her laptop glowed in the darkness. On the screen was her new website, Scarline Naturals. Beauty born from strength. The name had come to her one night, tracing her scar in the mirror. A scar line, a line that marked where she had broken and where she had healed. Reviews scrolled past on the screen. 5 stars. 5 stars. 5 stars. Testimonials from customers in London, Accra, New York, Dubai. Women who love her products and had no idea who she really was. A notification popped up at the top of the screen, and Aiden's breath caught. Partnership with Beauty Hub Global confirmed. Initial investment, $2.3 million US. She stared at the number. 2.3 million, more than she had ever made with Lux. More than Kelechi could ever imagine she would make again. She closed the laptop slowly and pulled out her phone. Scrolled through old photos she kept meaning to delete, but never did. Her and Kelechi at the beach. Her and Kelechi at a restaurant. Lux by Adani's grand opening. The life she used to have. She deleted them one by one. Each deletion felt like a small funeral. Then she lay back on her narrow bed and stared at the ceiling, listening to the compound generator rumble outside her window. 6 months earlier, Adan had lived in a different room, even smaller than this one. A single room in Yaba that smelled like mold and had water stains on the ceiling. She had been exhausted every day, working multiple jobs. Data entry in the morning, customer service calls in the afternoon. Anything that paid. At night, she worked on her laptop, researching, reformulating, planning. Her phone rang constantly with automated messages reminding her of unpaid bills. She ignored them all, kept typing. Research, formulas, business plans, building something from nothing again. 3 months ago, she had been at a computer cafe in Ajigbo, uploading product photos to her new website. Her hands shook from too much coffee and not enough sleep. She had lost weight. Her clothes hung loose. But when the notification came, first international order received, she stared at the screen for a full minute. Then she started to cry quietly, just for a moment. Then she wiped her face and got back to work. 1 month ago, she had moved into a slightly better apartment. Small but clean. No mold. No stands. She unpacked boxes labeled Scarline Naturals with her own hands, carefully arranging sample products on a small shelf. Her phone buzzed with an email, a job posting. Household staff needed for the Okeke family. Competitive salary. Room and board included. She read the address. Her hand paused over the phone screen. The Okeke family. Chika's family. The woman who had stolen her formula. Her fiancé. Her life. She accepted the position the same day. Back in the present, Adan folded wedding napkins in the kitchen alongside 3 other staff members. They chattered around her, gossiping the way people do when they think no one important is listening. I hear the groom used to date some businesswoman. She went mad after they broke up. A hen? Mad how? Lost everything. Her company, her mind, everything just scattered. That's what happens when you love a man more than you love yourself. When you put all your eggs in one basket. They laughed, comfortable, casual, not knowing they were talking about someone standing 3 feet away. Adan said nothing, just kept folding napkins into perfect triangles. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She checked it discreetly under the table. A message from her business partner in London. Scarline is trending on beauty Twitter. Orders are flooding in. We're projected to hit 5 million by year end. Whatever you're doing, it's working. She allowed herself a small smile. Faint, then went back to folding napkins. The wedding day arrived with Lagos sunshine and nervous energy. The venue was breathtaking. A luxury event hall in Victoria Island with chandeliers that probably cost more than most people's houses. Gold asobi everywhere you looked. A live band was already setting up, testing sound levels. The smell of expensive perfume mixed with jollof rice and fried rice, and moi moi being prepared in industrial quantities. Guests arrived in waves. Porsches, Range Rovers, G-Wagons, Mercedes-Benz S in every color. Lagos elite at its finest. Dressed to impress and be impressed. Inside, Adan moved through the crowd with a tray of champagne flutes. She wore her uniform, her scarf, her invisible cloak. Guests barely glanced at her as they took glasses from her tray, too busy greeting each other, taking photos, showing off their outfits. The ceremony had just finished. Chica and Kelechi were now husband and wife, officially, legally. The pastor had pronounced them bound in the sight of God and man, and everyone had cheered. Now, during the reception, Chica's laughter cut through the music like a knife, loud, performative, designed to be heard. She showed off her ring to every guest who passed, holding her hand up to catch the light. 14-carat, custom-made in Dubai. The jeweler said he'd never worked with a stone this perfect. A group of women in matching purple also cooed and congratulated her, touching the ring, exclaiming over its size. One of them glanced at ADAN as she passed with her tray. Even the maid is watching. Look at her face. You want this kind of life, Abiel? You think if you stare hard enough, it will become yours. They laughed. The kind of laughter that feels like violence. Casual cruelty dressed up as humor. Chica turned, saw ADAN standing there with her tray, and her smile sharpened into something predatory. Don't worry, dear. Maybe in your next life, if you're lucky. If you pray hard enough. More laughter. Louder now. Other guests were starting to pay attention, entertained by the spectacle. Kelechi stood beside his bride, smiling, nodding along with the jokes. But when his eyes passed over ADAN, just for a second, something flickered. Recognition. Confusion. A distant memory trying to surface. He blinked, shook his head slightly. The moment passed. Aiden's hands trembled as she poured champagne into another glass. The bottle clinked against crystal. Then her hand steadied. Something settled inside her. A decision made. An hour later, the reception was in full swing. People were dancing now. The band was playing high-life classics. Food was being served on china plates. Waiters rushed back and forth. The photographer's flashes went off constantly, capturing moments for eternity. Chica's father took the microphone on stage. He was a large man in an agbada that probably cost more than a car, sweating despite the air conditioning. To my beautiful daughter and her husband, may your marriage be blessed with wealth, health, and many, many children. May you never know poverty. May you prosper in all your ways. Applause erupted. Cheers. People raised their glasses. ADAN stood near the wall, tray in hand, watching. The music softened as someone prepared to make another speech. The lights flickered slightly, a brief technical glitch that made a few people look up at the chandelier. And then ADAN moved. She set her tray down on a nearby table. Slowly, carefully, like she was setting down a weapon before battle. She walked forward through the crowd, slowly, steadily. Each step deliberate. The room didn't notice at first, but gradually, conversations began to pause. Heads turned. People nudged each other, whispering. Why is the maid walking toward the high table? What is she doing? Chica noticed. Her smile faded into confusion, then irritation. Excuse me, can someone get her? Security. But ADAN didn't stop. She reached the center of the room, right under the largest chandelier where everyone could see her. The entire hall fell silent. Even the band stopped playing mid-note. Kelechi stood up from the high table, his face draining of color. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Then finally, one word. A name. Spoken like a ghost had appeared. ADAN. She reached up, gripped the edge of her scarf with both hands, and pulled it off. Then the wig. The scar was visible now, clear under the golden light of the chandelier. A jagged line along her scalp. A reminder of violence, of survival, of everything she had been through. Gasps rippled through the hall like a wave. Someone dropped their glass. Crystal shattered on marble. A woman near the back pulled out her phone, started recording. Within seconds, a dozen phones were raised. Recording, documenting, posting. Another voice, louder now, cutting through the shocked silence. Wait. Isn't that ADAN Okafor? The one who owned Lux? Oh my God, it is. What is she doing here? I thought she disappeared. She's been here the whole time. As a maid working for the Okikes? The whispers multiplied, spreading like wildfire through dry grass. ADAN didn't look at them. She looked only at Kelechi. Her voice was calm when she spoke. Clear. The kind of calm that comes after you've survived the worst and realize you're still standing. You took everything from me. Kelechi's mouth opened and closed. No sound came out. He looked like a man drowning. My company, my formula, my dignity, my future. You told me I was nothing without you. You called me crazy. You made everyone believe I'd lost my mind. The crowd was frozen. Every eye fixed on them. The phones kept recording. This would be everywhere by tomorrow. By tonight. By the next hour. Chica's voice cracked, high-pitched and desperate. Kelechi, who is this woman? Why is she talking to you like this? What is happening? He didn't answer her. Couldn't answer her. Just stood there, trapped in the spotlight of his own lies. ADAN continued. Her voice never rose. Never broke. She had learned something in the last 2 years. That real power doesn't need to shout. But I rebuilt it. Everything you destroyed, I rebuilt. Stronger. Cleaner. Freer. Without you. Without your connections. Without your name. And I did it better than before. She paused. Let the words settle. Let them sink into the expensive fabric of the room. The scar you see? You gave me this. You pushed me. You hurt me. You told me it was my fault. And for a long time, I believed you. I thought I deserved it. I thought I was nothing. More gasps. Chica's mother stood up, her face twisted in horror and rage. Security, remove this woman. This is a private event. But nobody moved. Everyone was transfixed. This was better than any wedding speech. This was real drama, real pain, the kind of thing people would talk about for years. ADAN smiled then, not with bitterness, not with hate, with something deeper, with peace. But I'm not nothing. I never was. And now the whole world knows it. She looked at Chica, really looked at her, not with anger, with pity. Good luck. Then she turned and walked toward the exit. The crowd parted automatically, like the Red Sea, like she was royalty and they were subjects. Nobody tried to stop her. Nobody spoke. Kelechi's voice broke the silence, desperate, pleading. ADAN, please wait. I can explain. She didn't look back, didn't pause, just kept walking. The doors opened before her. Sunlight poured in like a revelation. She stepped out into it, leaving the shocked silence behind her. If you were her, would you have exposed him like this? Or stayed quiet to keep your peace? Hours later, ADAN sat on the small balcony of her apartment. The better one now, not the one in Yaba. Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing, notification after notification. But she had turned the sound off. She held a cup of tea, lipped with sugar and milk, the way her mother used to make it, and looked out at the Lagos skyline. The city glowed beneath her, alive, endless, full of possibility. She finally picked up her phone and scrolled through the chaos. Social media had exploded. CEO of Scarline Naturals crashes ex-fiancée's wedding. Kelechi Nosu's dark past exposed at his own reception. ADAN Okafor, from rags to riches, the ultimate comeback story. Wedding guest or revenge mission? Beauty mogul's shocking revelation. The video of her removing her wig had been viewed over 2 million times already. Comments poured in by the thousands. She is a whole queen. That scar is her crown. Kelechi is cancelled. We don't support thieves. Chica knew what she was doing. They both deserve each other. I am crying. This is the most powerful thing I've seen all year. A message from her business partner in London. Orders have tripled. The website crashed from traffic. We need to talk about scaling production immediately. This is absolutely insane. You're a genius. Another message, this one from a number she didn't recognize. ADAN, this is Jennifer from Forbes Africa. We'd love to feature your story. Please call me. She smiled faintly, then put the phone face down on the small table beside her chair. Took another sip of tea. Let the sweetness and warmth spread through her. The next morning, Kelechi sat in his new apartment, his and Chica's. But Chica wasn't there. The apartment was silent except for the hum of the air conditioner. His phone had been ringing since 5 a.m. His phone, Chica's phone, the house phone. Everyone wanted answers. Explanations. Everyone had seen the video. His phone rang again. Chica's mother. He stared at the screen, then answered. Mrs. Okeke's voice was ice. My daughter is back at my house. She's not coming back to you until you explain who that woman was. Until you explain how you've humiliated my family. Do you know what people are saying? Do you know what this has done to our reputation?" He opened his mouth to respond, but she had already hung up. He sat in silence for a long moment. Then his phone buzzed again. A news alert. Scarline Naturals signs 10 million partnership with international retailers. He clicked on the article. Read it slowly. There was a photo of ADAN, confident, powerful, wearing a white blazer and gold jewelry. Her scar was visible in the photo, not hidden, not shameful. Just there, part of her story. The article detailed her rise, how she had built Scarline from nothing, how her products were now sold in 15 countries, how she had overcome personal and professional devastation to become one of the most promising entrepreneurs in African beauty. They called her inspiring, resilient, a role model. They didn't mention him by name. He was just a past betrayal, a former business associate who attempted to steal her work. Erased. Less than nothing. He closed his eyes and dropped his phone on the couch beside him. 1 week passed, then another. The internet never forgets, but it does move on. New scandals, new dramas, new stories. But for ADAN, everything had changed. She walked through her new office, larger than the Lux office had ever been. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Lagos Island. A full team of 15 people worked at clean white desks, their faces focused and energized. Young people, smart people, people who believed in what they were building. Her scar was visible. She didn't hide it anymore. Didn't cover it with wigs or scarves unless she wanted it for style. It was part of her now, part of her story, part of what made her powerful. A staff member approached. A young woman named Kayamika with bright eyes and an infectious smile. "Ma, we have a meeting with the investors in an hour. They've flown in from Johannesburg specifically to meet you. The conference room is ready." "I'll be ready. Thank you, Kayamika." The young woman walked away, and ADAN turned back to the window, looked out at the city that had broken her and rebuilt her. The city that never stopped moving, never stopped demanding, never stopped creating. Sometimes your silence isn't weakness. It's strategy. Because when you return, you don't return to prove something. You return to reign. She turned back to her team. They looked up at her, waiting for direction. "Let's get to work. We have a business to run." They moved as one, purposeful, united, building something that would last. The camera of her own awareness held on her face for a moment. She looked forward, not at the past, not at what was stolen, but at what was possible. A quiet smile touched her lips. Not triumphant, just content, just a piece. And what would you do if someone who betrayed you begged for a second chance? Forgive them? Or forget they ever existed? The answer, she had learned, wasn't always simple, but it was hers. She had chosen to walk forward, to build, to become someone who didn't need revenge, because success was sweeter than any confrontation could ever be. But she had also chosen to speak her truth, to show her scars, to let the world know what happened and decide for themselves. And in that choice, in that moment under the chandelier with the whole world watching, she had taken back something more valuable than money or fame or vindication. She had taken back herself. The office hummed with energy around her. Phones ringing, keyboards clicking, voices discussing strategies and campaigns and growth. Life moving forward. ADAN picked up a folder from her desk, investor projections for the next quarter, and headed toward the conference room. She had work to do, a legacy to build, a future to create. And this time, nobody could take it from her. Because this time, she knew exactly who she was. And that was enough. Now, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? And what would you have done if you were ADAN that day? I love seeing your locations light up across Africa and beyond. This is StorySphere, where real stories hit different. Subscribe for more.